Damn. Damn. That's crazy.
All right. You know what it is. You know who it is. We're back with another episode of the BGPerform podcast with my co-host, Coach Jerry Hayes. Jerry?
What's up? Did you hear that train?
Yeah, I did.
I cut it out at the tail end, but it still came through.
How is life?
Life is busy. Life is very busy right now. I'm training hard. So,
Good.
yeah, staying busy. No big updates. Willing to share.
Got you. I got you.
Yeah.
I'll share some updates. Had my half marathon. Fucking crushed it. It was so windy and so hilly. It was awful. A lot harder than I was expecting. Still hit a 5-minute PR, just about. Got the meanest hamstring cramp in the last minute. Literally the last minute. Like, as I could see the finish line and my hamstring was just tightening up, and I just felt it tighten up. And I was running to the finish line like a pirate with a gimp leg. It was so bad. I was just, ugh. But, had an hour 45 minutes for the final time, under an 8-minute mile for the entire thing, which is insane.
I like
Never
it.
thought I'd be doing that at my body weight, especially right now. And it was like huge accomplishment for me because the last half marathon was my first one, and I did it an hour 49 minutes. This was a really hard course. Like, I do think this one was probably like I do think this was actually like a harder course. Like, I think this was actually like a qualifying course, or it counts as like a qualifying course if you wanted to do like the Boston Marathon or try to qualify for that. But overall, I finished in 52nd place. I was, well, I have it right here. Let me pull it up. So I was 52nd overall, 39th in my gender, and 9th in my division, which was 30 to 39. Males 30 to 39.
I'd like to see everyone's body weight.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, so the guys in front of me were like you.
Yeah.
They
Like
were
stringy dudes.
They were built like you, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good race. I'm proud of myself for how I finished. I think on like if I did the same course that I did for my first half marathon, I definitely would have gotten like probably in the 130s easy. Because I was on pace for like 138, I think, and then there was just some fucking hills. It was like literally just continuous uphill for like the last 6 miles, and I was fucking dying. But luckily, I didn't get past once in the whole race.
Nice.
And actually, let me rephrase that. I got past at the end when had to stop and stretch my hamstring for like 5 seconds. But outside of that, I was moving the entire time. I didn't stop. Like I was cruising. It was a great race for me. So had that, and what else? I feel like there was something else I wanted to mention on here. I don't know. Figure it out.
Maybe what do you think is worse, a calf cramp or hamstring cramp?
Ooh. Well,
dude, I think hamstring is worse, but calf is a very close second for me.
Yeah, the calf kind of sucks. Hamstring is way worse, I think, because the hamstring is like the calf. You just like it's in the calf, so it's like it doesn't really like the hamstring. Like it travels.
Yeah.
Like I when you get a hamstring cramp, it's like your whole leg's done, and you got.
See, I feel like it's really localized, and I feel like it goes like this, and then somebody twists the muscle, and I'm just like, ugh, and I have to straighten out my leg.
I don't know. It's they both suck. Let's just put it that way. But
yeah, I think I'd rather take a calf cramp.
Yeah, I think I would too, unless it's in the middle. Well, actually, I don't know, because those cramps in the middle of the night. I haven't woken up with a calf cramp in like a really long time. But if you ever woken up with like a bad calf cramp in the middle of the night, that shit is awful.
Dude, I woke up when I was in college. I think it was freshman year. It was one of those muscle farm workouts. So it was 8 sets of 8 on front squat, and then like you go and you do more after, like machine wise. I woke up in the middle of the night, probably 2 a.m. with my quads just locked up, and I was like,
my God.
I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. It was so painful.
Paralyzed?
Yeah, basically, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about warm-ups and recoveries for athletics. So I know we talked a little bit about this last season. We had a episode warm-ups that win sessions. That was a little bit more generalized approach. Today I want to specifically dive into warm-ups and recovery for athletics in regards to, what specific warm-ups might look like for an athlete. Talk a little bit about current day recovery methods and why some of them, in my opinion, are useless, and diving into a little bit more of the details of what it looks like for an athlete to warm up, because I think this is an important thing for coaches, because while I think for the general population there is a lot of things that we can take that time to teach, right? And I think we can still kind of, because we discussed that a lot in the warm-ups that win sessions. But I think with athletics, we want to prime, we want to make sure people are ready to move at a really high pace, because for the most part with athletics, we don't have that time to waste, right? And I think I've talked about this before with a lot of the athletes that I train. We're usually in a phase where it's all right, we got 4 to 6 weeks and we're getting ready for an event, right? Or a fight or whatever it might be. And I think it's really important that in your warm-up, you're able to prime someone to get ready to do what they need to do and get out, because we don't really want to waste a lot of time, and you really shouldn't be putting them through any type of time wasting movement during those types of sessions. If it's the off season, then we're going to kind of treat them as a general client, and we'd probably want to go back to more of that warm up that wins sessions type of podcast episode. But with this, I really want to dive into the specifics of what it's going to look like for an athlete to warm up and get ready for real training. Anything to add to that?
Nope, not yet.
Cool. So when we talk about this, right, I want to dive into a little story first about why recovery methods kind of suck and why most warm-ups kind of suck. But I think nowadays, there's so many tools, there's so many, methods and machines and things that are built for recovery, quote unquote, if you can't see my hands. And I think a lot of them are have good intent, right? I think that they feel good. We have the massage guns, we have ice baths, we have saunas, we have foam rollers, we have what else? What are those? The Normatec boots.
The compression boots and sleeves.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing a couple big ones, but there's
cryo, red light.
Cryo. I mean, I throw cryo and ice baths in the same thing. But anyways, I think a lot of that stuff is used by a lot of people, right? But I don't think they're as effective as people think, and also because for a lot of reasons, right? I think they're very topical. Obviously, there's a lot of claims with ice baths and cryo and things like that they affect your body in a different way, or they create a stimulus, which, there's been a lot of things that have come out that have come out that have disproven that, or at least not shown the effects that people claim it does. And then on top of that, I think there's just a lot of unnecessary money spent on some of these things, and they're just basically novelty, I guess we can call it. It's just things that are just hey, use these boots and it's going to make you feel better. And it's or just sleep, right? And I'm not going to trying to bring I don't want to come at this as a Debbie Downer and shit on all that stuff, because I think they can be useful, because there's some times where it does feel good to just relax and get a massage, or relax and use the massage gun, or sit in a sauna or a hot tub or something like that. But we want to know what we're trying to get from it, and know that they're all kind of second grade, third grade, fourth grade in regards to the efficiency that they actually have towards recovery. And adding stress to the body isn't always the best way to add or to recover, right? And then for warm-ups, I think in regards to athletics, I think a lot of the times you'd be surprised at how shitty the warm-ups are for athletics, and how, unguided they are, how unstructured they are, how little rhythm they lack. And really or on the other end, like how long they are. Like I've seen warm-ups that are like 20, 30 minutes, and it's just like, what are we doing?
It's a whole
You know,
workout.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like and obviously like there's a time and a place where like a warm-up is the workout, or takes a lot of time. But for an athlete, like we want to make sure they're efficiently getting in, getting out, and getting into the session, and then able to start that recovery process. Because like especially in MMA, you don't have that much time to recover unless you kind of use the methods that I use or the way that I usually program with the people I work with. You don't really have that much time to recover in between sessions. And if you're wasting time, you're just taking away from the recovery model. So, there's been so many times, especially when I first moved down to Florida and I saw a lot of the people that I worked with. There was two different camps, right? There was the ones that warmed up for 5, not even 3 minutes. They did a couple of the arm swings, they did a couple of the front to backs, a couple toe touches, and then they're like trying to max effort deadlift. And then there was the other ones who were taking 45 minutes to warm up, and then trying to fit an hour workout in, and wondering why they were exhausted at the end of the day. And then on the recovery side of things, it's like in Florida especially, it's not so much up here in Albany anymore, but like in Florida, there was like a recovery, med spa, elite recovery this, elite recovery that session, or what do you call it? Like storefront every 5 feet. And while some of them are cool, again, you're spending money on stuff that really isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, and not with the consistency that even if you wanted for it to do anything that we would need to be doing it for. And like you could be spending that time and money elsewhere to improve. And I think when I got to Florida and I started working with a lot of these athletes, I was just seeing this stuff and I was like, what the fuck are these people doing? Like these are, you're looking at some of like the best athlete. Well, MMA fighters aren't really the best athletes, but like the best fighters on the planet, and they're doing all this stuff, and then they're not sleeping at night, or they're not eating well, or and it's just like, well, what's the point of the rest of this, right? And I think you can attest to this too. It's like all this other stuff, all the recovery stuff, all the warm-up stuff, it's second rate to sleep. And I think we all know this, right? And I think sleep's a big struggle for a lot of people, but I think we all know this at the end of the day. Like if we're not sleeping and we try to cover it up by sitting in an ice bath for 2 hours, or sitting in a sauna for 2 hours, or sitting in Normatec boots while we're, massage gunning ourselves and sitting in cryo, like none of it's going to work if we're not actually giving our body what it needs. And that's rest, recovery, and regeneration through like real proper sleep and proper movement patterns, and again, proper programming.
That's something that in Denver is like, it's a really weird city because like everybody's super
Elevation
active and
masks.
super healthy. What was that?
Elevation masks.
Oh my God, don't even get me started, dude. Especially people in Denver who wear elevation masks. It's like, dude, you're beating a dead horse. But the weird thing about Denver is everybody is really healthy, really active, but then they want to prioritize recovery, but Denver is the biggest drinking city I've been to, and I haven't been to Boston yet, but eventually I plan on going there. But dude,
you never been to South Florida.
South Florida. Okay, yeah. So South Florida is big, but dude, Denver, like there are breweries everywhere. People in Denver will just go out all the time just to drink, and they'll do all this recovery stuff, but again, they won't sleep. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I'm doing cryo, ice bath, sauna. What do you think of that?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, how are you sleeping?" They're like, "I'm getting like 6 hours." Be like, "Let's bump that up to 8, and maybe not use the other stuff until you do it." And they're like, "Nah, but I feel great," which is one thing I understand that it can make you feel really good. Every time I use the sauna, I feel great. I feel like on a rest day, if I'm using the sauna to recover, or like just because, I'll go in there and I'll be like, okay, I feel like I have the endorphin rush of a workout, but I didn't actually do anything. I got to relax and whatever. So I understand the feeling good part, but as far as like what's actually being done, if most people were to sleep, they'd feel better. It's the exact same to me as like the guy who has his protein, creatine, fish oils, BCAAs, and whatever supplements, but he's not hitting his protein goal in actual foods, and like he's not eating whole foods. He's just eating McDonald's or whatever. It's just a goofy mindset.
Yeah, that's it. And I think like really it could be summarized by that. It's like, get your sleep and make sure that is the main priority. Otherwise, like the rest of the stuff's not really going to do much for you,
Yeah.
And it's really as simple as that, because there's so many methods out there currently, and again, we just named all of them, and I just like I don't see the purpose of them, and I don't see the actual carryover because I've done them myself. You know, I've done ice baths. I like saunas for a couple reasons. One, because I think obviously in regards to like a warm up, which we'll talk about in a second, is like getting the body temperature up is really important. And if you can get the
Mm-hmm.
body temperature up, you can um you can get a lot done in a short period of time. Like that's why we warm up, is to get our body temperature up and get the body moving. And then also like there's been a lot of things with actual saunas post workout. Well, you know, Huberman's been a big advocate for that. But kind of like sitting in the sauna, it does a lot for our recovery in regards to like blood flow, and that's how I think of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're doing damage to your body, right, heat and movement are going to be ideal. If you're doing damage to your body, a lot of people turn to ice, they turn to anti-inflammatories, and like that's a process our body needs to go through. Inflammation is a process that our body needs to go through. Icing only stops that, right? So if you have anything like, and this is how I usually go about it. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. You don't have to listen to me, but you know, I've had injuries in the past, and I don't ice them. I don't, you know, really do anything like that because it just slows down the process. If it's really, really, really painful,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets in the way, which luckily I've never, well, actually my shoulder recently, but you know, even my shoulder, I didn't really ice. It's just something that I want my body to try to heal as quick as possible. And that process of inflammation and movement, and, you know, that's what helps it, right? Like when I hurt my shoulder, you know, the first couple days I took painkillers just because it was kind of painful just sitting there. But after that, I moved. I let my body kind of do its thing, and within a short period of time, I was able to get just about full range of motion back, and
Mm-hmm.
from just letting it do it, you know, letting it heal. I had a client who was a doctor in Florida who told me basically, you know, and I don't know if I'd recommend this, but it's always helped me if I ever got any like big injury like that, just taking like Tylenol at the max dose for 48 hours kind of helps it relax. And that's always been a big thing for me that's helped. But outside of that, it's like, you know, stay away from anything like that for the most part. Let the body do its thing, move, continue to kind of like massage, use heat, not ice, allow the body to kind of like send blood to that area because that's what it needs to recover. And slowing it down and stopping it and taking all that away is only going to slow down the process and make it even longer. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up in regards to recovery. We kind of think we went a little bit off tangent there, but anything to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just say I think we mentioned in a previous podcast. I don't remember which season. It might have been like 3 years ago at this point. But the guy who created Rice, Rest, Ice,
Yeah,
Compress, and
it was
Elevate,
wrong.
yeah, he backtracked. He was like, "Hey guys, I was wrong. Icing doesn't help because it constricts blood vessels, all that stuff that Brandon just said." And then the other thing I will say is obviously like sauna has a lot of benefits, but again, if you're not doing the basics, it's not worth it in that sense because like you go in the sauna and you sweat more, but if you're not drinking enough water, now you're just dehydrated, which is going to affect your recovery even worse.
Yeah.
So just making sure you're eating well, sleeping well. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then again, if you're sleeping well and like, you know, you're going through that process correctly, you're
Mm-hmm.
eating real foods, you're sleeping, you know, we'll say 6 to 8 hours, but you know, as close to 8 that you can get, and probably more if you're training hard, then you know the other stuff might help, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with the other stuff. I don't want you guys to think that it's bad to use it. It's just not
No,
going to
no.
save you, right? It's not going to really do what it's putting out there that it's going to do. Like a massage gun, for example, it does nothing but basically uh, relaxes your nervous system or relaxes the muscle because of the vibrations and allows the muscle to kind of like relax, and it feels good for a little bit and then it goes back to hurting. And that's why, you know, it feels so good for a short amount of time and then it kind of goes back, and then you do it again and then it goes back, and you do it again and it goes back. That whole process, you know, it is more of like a neurological response. It's not really doing anything permanent to the body. So, and that vibration obviously helps a little bit with like, you know, blood flow. It helps a little bit with like that, like a tactile cue to just relax. Like if you guys are familiar with any like myofascial release, like putting pressure on a muscle and moving, you know, through a range of motion usually does help it relax a little bit. But if you don't do anything like serious with it in regards to movement or strength training, it just comes back and you just keep going through the same cycle. So I think with that process is obviously get your sleep first, then start to use the recovery methods only after you're actually feeling that. And for myself, right, like one of the things that I'll talk about on my hot take, well, I'll save it for there, but there's a couple things that people like to do now in regards to recovery that I think are just pointless, really, unless you're going into it with like the idea of what it actually is, which I'll get to. It's pointless. But anything to add to that?
No, I'm ready to go to the warm up stuff.
Yeah. So diving into the warm ups, right? So I think the first thing when we're talking about athletics, like I said, the main goal, like we need to perform. We need to get ready to perform as quick as possible and as efficiently as possible. With athletes, there's always a couple different things we want to work on inside of a warm up. So what I want to kind of do first, and I think we might have talked about this a little bit in the warm up that wins sessions, but just quickly take you through like what a session or warm up might look like for one of my athletes that I would work with, right? So we'd start with some base support, which again, like the first quarter of the workout is going to look very similar to like a general population workout, but we have our base support. So it's our heel to toe, heel walk, toe walk. Then we're going to usually be getting into whether it's upper or lower, the single leg RDL, airplane, and then lunge, walking lunge or the sprinter's pose. Or for the upper body, we're YTW pattern, shoulder swimmers, and scapular push-ups. Sometimes we'll throw like a band pull-apart series in there as well, or like a PVC pipe stretch. So that we talked about a little bit in the warm-up that wins sessions, and that's kind of going to stay the same throughout either one. What changes for the athletes is when we start to kind of implement plyometrics and ballistics and more athletic type of movement, right? So once we kind of get ourselves through some dynamic patterns with like working with the foot, working with the hip, knee, ankle, all that stuff, or the upper body, the shoulder, hips, and spine, or the shoulder and spine, then we want to start to get into some like bigger movement patterns. And the way that I usually like to go about it, or that I was taught or that I learned, was that base support, that more dynamic movement, and then we're getting into those low level plyometrics, and then we're getting into those high level plyometrics or the ballistics. And for athletics, those low level plyometrics are going to be something that's there year round, right? Mm-hmm. And before I kind of dive into this a little bit further, one of the problems I have, which I mentioned in the beginning, is that either warm-ups are really way too light, or they're way too long and require way too much time. I remember when I first got down to Florida, sorry to keep shitting on Florida, but a lot of those guys didn't work.
Fucking Florida.
They needed a lot of work down there. And you had these people that were teaching these warm-ups that were ridiculous, like taking 25, 30 minutes of an hour session to do like a ball slam the right way. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, no, like, well, why are we waiting? Like, you're getting these guys who already don't want to be there, and you're teaching them a ball slam that's supposed to translate to your punching power. And I'm like, bro, stop. Like, what are we, like, this is such a waste of time. And, eventually I ended up being able to like run those sessions and save so much time. And so much, it was so much more efficient, because you have to realize with these types of warm-ups, yes, we want them to feel like it's translating to the sport, right? But like we've talked about the strength training, we don't have to bring in the sport into the weight room, right? We just have to work on qualities of fitness. We have to work on preparing for qualities of fitness, do it as efficiently as possible, and then get to the session and get out. So with the warm-up, we want it to be about 15 to 20 minutes for the athlete, right? So once we go through that initial phase and we get into these low-level plyometrics, we're talking about things like pogos, single leg pogos, switch foot pogos, A skips, single leg A skips, like on the right or left leg. We have lateral shuffles. We have karaoke. We have karaoke with a knee raise. We have what else? We got like extensive jumps, intensive jumps, right? So extensive meaning like a little bit more of the knee bend, intensive being a little bit more of like the calf. We have a dribble series. We have, change of direction drills. We have cone drills. Like there's so much we can implement. And with low level plyometrics, the main goal there is like ground contact. So we want as many like ground contacts as we can in a short amount of time. And we want to try to increase that number throughout the year, because that's what's going to help us kind of make that transition. And this is like a really important piece that a lot of people don't really think about, but those hops and skips, those little ones where it's like, anywhere from, 150 to like 250 ground contacts, something like that in that little piece, depending on your weight too. Like, if you're a little bit heavier, you want to be a little bit lower on the actual like ground contacts you're having, because that can be very demanding on that area of the body if you're like 250 pounds.
Yeah, the Achilles can take so much, you know.
Yeah,
Only take so much.
For the most part, around that 150 to like 200, I guess we'll call them ground contacts would be ideal. And doing that through a mix of patterns. What I usually like to do with athletics is I'll have like a pogo day, I'll have like an A skip day, or I'll have like a bilateral day, and I'll have like a unilateral day in regards to, you know, the pogo or the low level plyos, right? And starting to build those up consistently throughout like the weeks. So starting at, you know, a time, it could be a 30-second pogo, then we're going 35, then we're going 40, then we're going 45. It could be 10 to 15 to 20 to 25. It could start banded, and then could move to, you know, I've had progressions where I start banded into body weight, into weighted, you know, and anything that kind of gets us into that transition, because those low level plyos are going to be what gets us into the plyometrics when the time comes, safely and effectively. And I think that's really the key to maintaining like readiness throughout the year for whatever it might be, especially in the fight sports, right? Like this might not be the same for basketball, this might not be the same for baseball and the team sports, but with fighting, we have to be ready really on a week's notice sometimes. And that low level plyometric is going to allow us to kind of make that transition safely and effectively without overloading the body and hurting ourselves, right? And I think if we look at this from an athletics point of view, a lot of the time early in the season, you see a lot of these little nagging injuries because people are going from like 0 to 100. Or you'll see, you know, basketball is a big one where it's like Achilles injuries happen all the time, and they either happen from a 0 to 100 flip, where it's like, hey, I was doing nothing and now I'm doing 100, or they happen late in the season from, you know, strains and tears that happen in the calf, and you don't give yourself enough time to actually rest because tendons take a really long time to rest. So with the low level plyometrics, like doing those year round and getting used to those hops and skips and building up resistance and tolerance and resiliency actually allows you to withstand more and be able to output more, right? So before I dive deeper into this, anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I would say my structure is almost identical. You did mention some spine work, but I will say like T-spine rotation is one of the biggest things that I'll put in that base level one.
Yeah, open.
Then,
I like to do open book stretch. I forgot.
Yeah. So like any form of T-spine rotation is going to be huge. We tend to get locked up, and a lot of the lower body movements that we do, once you warm up the thoracic spine, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable, like loading up a bar on your back or even holding dumbbells at your side when they're really heavy. Going into those low level plyos, I do, again, same thing, focusing on ground contact time being reduced to as little ground contact time as possible. So basically, like, you're moving nice and quick. If your feet are hitting the ground, they're right back up. Not only to warm up, obviously, the muscles and, like, get the body warm, but it also warms up the central nervous system a ton to have that quick reaction. And then you were mentioning that you'll go, like, bilateral days or unilateral days, stuff like that. I like to split. Where I change mine a little bit is typically I'll do linear days and lateral days. So
yeah, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, because I think a lot of, especially like when you're working with, kind of to go into last week's episode, when you're working with youth athletes, getting these movement patterns can be kind of tricky because they're doing them for the first time, they're learning them, and obviously like some people will learn faster than others, but when you're going through something that's linear and then you go to lateral, sometimes they get tripped up and then they have to redo that set or whatever, and it almost makes it a little harder to fit all the things that you need to fit within that short period of time, and it does end up becoming a longer warm-up. So I like to keep things as simple as possible. Like today we're just moving linearly, and then next day we're just moving laterally, and you might have like some other things in that's mainly for the higher level plyometrics too. So during the low level plyos I might do lateral and linear just to wake them up a little bit, but then the main focus of those high plyo exercises I'll do either linear or lateral.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too, again, just like any strength exercise, I like to progress into like the bigger movements, right? If I know we're doing, and that's where a lot of the time I usually base what I'm doing on the low level plyos into what I'm doing on the like actual plyometric or ballistic side of things. So like if I'm doing box jumps, for example, or like a broad jump, I'll do a lot of pogos. I'll do a lot of, forward and backward type of low level plyometrics, both feet on the ground, creating that force and landing and repeating that continuously, things where I'm facing forward and changing direction, things where I'm facing forward and landing and like you said, trying to create quick little, transitions of the feet and what would be called, so the exact word for it, where like when your foot hits the ground and leaves, is the amortization phase. So it's basically like when your foot leaves or hits the ground and leaves again. We want to try to make that as short as possible in like this type of training, and just quick, as many as we can get in. So what that might look like is, like I said, we might start on a banded pogo, into a body weight pogo, into extensive jumps, into intensive jumps, something like that, where we're kind of progressing throughout. One of my favorite progressions is like the A skip progression. So you kind of work into, you could start with like an ankle dribble, then you can work into a calf dribble, then you can work into a knee dribble, and then you can actually work into like a full sprint mechanic drill. Then you can start to work on the actual like A skip mechanics. You can work on wall sprinting mechanics. You can work on kind of those planting mechanics, and that helps a lot in regards to like unilateral work. Or if you're like doing a lot of sled pushing, or obviously sprinting or running, like those are really good drills to get ready to produce force in those ranges of motion. But to kind of reel this back in, I think with an athletic warm up, our goal needs to kind of like come from the bottom up, right? So we want to look at what the session's going to look like. If it's a strength session, what are we doing, right? It might be, and again, if you're using like for example, a condensed conjugate model, you might have a max effort or a dynamic effort lower, then have a max effort upper with accessory work. So we want that day where we're hitting like max effort upper work and a dynamic effort lower work. We'd want the opposite to be ballistics, right? So it'd be upper warm up T-spine rotation type deal, low level plyometrics. Then we're getting into some like throws, where it might be some rotational throws, some punch throws, some overhead throws, whatever you want to do from there, which I'll dive into in a second. And then we'd get right into that dynamic effort lower, which might be a banded box squat or a banded trap bar deadlift, with speed being the main goal. And then we're getting into like the max effort upper with the accessory work from there. And then maybe some conditioning, or you do that on a different day. And then the vice versa for, a max effort lower day, it might look like the same. We're warming up the lower body. Then we're getting into the low level plyometrics that we're working on that different subset. Then we're getting into the like plyometrics, like the jumps and whatnot. Then we're getting into a max effort upper, or a dynamic effort upper, which might be a banded bench press. It might be, what else? It might be like a push press. It could be like another, a heavier toss with a ball, something where we're really being dynamic with throwing, or with that pressing motion out in front of us. And then we're getting into a max effort lower. I'm confusing myself because I'm saying all this stuff.
Upper, lower. It's weird because I'm the same way. If it's not written down and I could show you, I'm gonna mess it up.
Yeah. But anyways, so if that's confusing, just ask me and I'll be more than happy to send you actually something, because that might have just sounded like I was word vomiting on all of it. But so with the warm up, right? We want to make sure we're covering that base. And why I kind of went through all that strength stuff is because the warm up's going to show you what do we actually need to get ready for in that session. And that's how we're going to actually build this out, while also maintaining that normal phase at the bottom. So really the warm up for the athletics really starts to change in that middle section right before we're getting into the actual strength workout, with the low level plyometrics and then the actual plyometrics that we do for that day. I think another thing that really helps me with warming up for athletics is picking, the heel to toe, the heel walk, and the toe walk, right? Three of those, 3 dynamic movements to warm up. So it might be, like I said, single leg RDL, hip airplane, and the lunge, or it might be YTW, shoulder swimmers, and scapular push-up. 3 low-level plyometric drills, and then 3 plyometric drills. Just like picking it to make it easy, straight to the point. And I like to also do is like the plyometric drill, for example, I like to build on it. So for something that I might do is, if I'm going to work on like a broad jump, right? So the first one might be just a regular broad jump. Like we're going to do 5 reps. You're going to load, you're going to reach, load, explode, jump one time, come back through the line. The second one might be a double broad jump. So it's like we're going to take that first broad jump and we're going to add a second one to it. So we're taking that first one, creating a little bit of like that amortization phase, a little bit of a higher skill level for it, creating a second jump. The last one might be a triple broad jump. And it's as simple as that. It's like we're working on 3 different subsets of a broad jump, adding skill to it, but it's building on. So they're not going, okay, we're going to do this one first. Now we're going to learn this whole movement second. And then we're going to move this whole, learn this whole other one third. And they're like, wait a second, like, what are we doing? We have to learn this, and then I have to go into the strength. Just make it as simple as possible, build on top of each other. And for like a ballistic, right, a throw, one that I really like to do is a basic like med ball toss. So you stay in place, you hinge your hips, you stand up tall, and you explode and you throw the ball towards the wall. The second part would be like a jump. So you basically load the hips and you jump into the wall and throw it. And the third one might be like a slam catch and do the same thing, or you add like a third component to it. That's going to make it a little bit easier for them to digest and understand. So it's basically just like adding another layer on top, as opposed to, like I said, new movements throughout. Because if you can get that effort or that framework down, the warm-up's going to flow so much easier. You're going to feel less, overwhelmed because you're trying to do 100 different things, and the athlete's going to get exactly what they need out of it, right? I just posted something on Instagram, like we're literally right before this, about stimulus being like the goal that we need, and the warm-up should be focused on that too. We should understand what we're trying to get out of the warm-up, right? It's priming the body, priming the central nervous system, making sure we're ready to go so that we can get whatever stimulus is going on for the day. And we'll do that whatever way we see fit. It might be a med ball throw. It might be a rotational throw. It might be a slam. It might be an overhead throw. Like whatever works for the person to get that stimulus, then that's what we do, right? And the same thing for the jump. It might look like a lateral jump into a broad jump. It might look like a box jump into or a broad jump into a box jump type deal. Like whatever it might be, it's just easier when you take those 2 pieces and you just build them on each other, as opposed to having like 3 completely different movements that you're trying to teach somebody inside of these things, because then you're just wasting time.
Mm-hmm. I think not only is it efficient, and when it's that simple, it makes things, makes things easier on you as a coach. Like you said, you're not wasting time, but it also builds confidence in the athlete for that session. Yep. I've seen athletes become frustrated by complicated warm-ups where they'll start the warm, they'll mess up whatever plyo they're doing, and then they'll take that negative energy into the lift and like, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it today, just because they messed up that one. Like
exactly, and this is one of my problems in Florida. It was like, I remember specifically there was a coach who was trying, like, made up some med ball thing, like it was some med ball complex, and it was like, I don't even know what the hell it was, to be completely honest with you. And she was like, it's gonna load, hip, explode this. And everyone's like, what?
Why you gotta make it so freaking complicated?
And it was like, she's trying to teach them, and it was like 15 minutes in before they even got like the rep. And I was like, we just wasted 15 minutes and they didn't even get one explosive movement in. And then they were all like pissed off. And then you take that, like you just said, you take all that energy into the weight room, and now it's just like, it's basically, you might as well just call the session,
the coach is making shit up too when their warm-up is in their plyos or a Ninja Warrior course.
Oh my God.
They're just doing like, I'm going to lunge, jump, sprint to the side, shuffle, and then run forward. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, just practice the one movement over and over again. That's how you're going to get better at it.
Bro, you ever seen
if Levi Muhlenberg coming in to do the warped wall?
There was this lady I used to train, and she was the one who did the med ball thing. Oh my God. Anyways, she used to I shouldn't even say this.
She used to fart on the med ball, sniff it.
She used to train in the gym, but she would like pull her gun out while she was training. Like she would like unholster her gun and like practice while she was doing it. So she would like, there was one time. So there was.
She didn't, dude.
I swear to God.
Why are you lying?
I swear to God. There was one time she did a rope climb and pulled it out at the top.
Just in case you gotta stop the bad guys at the top of a building, dude. What?
She pulled. There was another time she was doing like a landmine press. Like the landmine press. She'd load, go down. She went to one knee and pulled out the gun. I was like, what is going on? Bro?
Dude, that's so fucking
I mean,
weird.
not to make fun of
Was
like
it
the
loaded?
tactical. I don't probably, bro. She was fucking like, not to make fun of the
Just a
tactical
desk
games.
pop, Terry.
Yeah. There's like the tactical game athletes. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No.
It's actually
Like
been like
SWAT, basically.
yeah, but they actually have like a full like what do you call it? Like they have a whole thing for it in Florida now. Like it's
Like it's a
pretty
timed
big.
course.
Yeah, it's like a timed course, and you like
That's
to do
cool.
Like, yeah, you have to do like basically you have to do like a sled push into like a you have to shoot like a target type deal. It's like that sort of thing. And it was just like, I remember the first time she did
There
it.
should be specific gyms for that. You can't just
Oh,
bust out a gun in the middle of a gym.
And like this, I remember the first time she did it, I was sitting there, I was watching her, and I was like, is that a fucking gun? I was just like, what? So,
That's so freaking wild, dude.
but yeah, so that was the person who made the med ball drill. That was just like absurd.
All right, hot take. Everybody needs to start bringing guns to the gym.
Bring your pistols.
How much can you bench? I don't know, but how much can you bench and then whip out a pistol? How fast can you do it?
But I was thinking, a reason I brought that up, I was thinking of the Shane Gillis skit where he's the cop and he's like sleeping and he's that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, dude, that's hilarious. I thought of that too.
I don't know where we were at with that before.
Oh man, we were talking about when people make like a warm up really complicated. It's like a Ninja Warrior course. Yeah.
So basically, that's what kind of happened with that whole thing, and it's just unnecessary. And I think like if you're gonna be a great coach and you're gonna train athletes and you're gonna get them where they want to be, they're not gonna want to sit there and deal with like these crazy warm ups that they don't feel are actually going to help them, right? And again, just like Jerry said, I think that's like such an underrated piece of the warm up as well. You want them to kind of like learn some of these skills, but you want to build confidence. Like you want them to walk into the gym and be like, "Oh yeah, I can do that. That felt really good. Now I'm going to go bench really well. I'm going to go squat really well." Not, "Oh, I just spent 15 minutes on a ball throw that I couldn't figure out. Like what the hell? Like why am I doing like build confidence in the athlete. Let them feel like they can, even if they suck at it, even if it's the simplest thing in the world. Who cares? Like, this is the other thing, like, and this is something I wrote in my notes for today, is like, you don't need to be that complicated with the warm-ups. Like, it doesn't need to be that. It can be as simple as you could work on the same med ball pass for months and still get better at the med ball pass and get a lot out of it. You don't need to change that for anything else. You don't need to be adjusting it or adding in these twists and turns or backflips or gun draws, whatever it might be. Like, it's so funny. But you just need to do what works and add it in. But that's it.
To add something just to the confidence piece too. I think about, and I want you guys to think about this too. How many times have you gone to the gym where you're like, man, dude, I'm so beat up from work and my workouts. I feel so tired today. I might go light. And then you warm up and you're like, that felt pretty good. And then you do like another warm up set and you're like, I might just start where I usually do. And then that felt light and you end up like doing really well that day and you like hit a PR. And like that one, not maybe not even a PR, but like that one set that really felt good can just change how you feel through the rest of the session. Sometimes athletes come through the door, they're coming off a loss, they're coming off of like a really hard practice and like, dude, coach is on us because we fumbled or we had an own goal or whatever it is, or like whatever it might be for fighting. Besides loss, I don't really know, but coach is on our ass, so we're super like down today. And then they have a really good warm up, really good session, and they're like, dude, that was exactly what I needed. That's your job as a strength coach.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about that before. Like, I think the warm up is, in just like it is in the normal everyday person's warm up. Like, we don't want them to leave the warm up and be like, "What the hell?" Like,
absolutely,
that's crazy, right? It's just with more skill and a little bit more on top of it. The athlete is the same thing. Get them in there, get them moving, raise the body temperature. Get them feeling good, get that stimulus of like explosiveness, get them ready to move, high force, create force, absorb force, that sort of thing. Get them in and get them out. And that's it. And that's what the warm-up should be.
As a coach, you just gotta be like, I got a fever, and the only prescription is more gun draws.
It's double
bring your pistol to our session, or you're out.
So for my hot take, I want to talk about two things. Both of them are cold related. I think. Well, actually, I'm gonna add a third thing too. So I'm gonna add two into one, and then I'm only gonna have two. So I'm gonna have another one.
Okay.
So I just made that way more complicated than it needs to be.
Hey guys, he has a couple hot takes.
Ice baths and cryo are useless. I don't, cryo especially. They just freeze you and make you feel like it's doing something. And I personally don't think it does anything at all.
Have you ever done it?
They've shown it does nothing at all.
Have you ever done it?
I've done it once.
I have also done it once.
I wouldn't do it again. Yeah.
Fucking nothing. Yeah.
I just don't think it's.
If it wasn't free, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, again, ice baths, people like the feeling. It's supposed to give you that sort of like endorphin kick or whatever it might be. I think they've shown a lot of things. It's been a while since I looked at it, but I might be off on this. I'm pretty sure they've shown a couple times that it doesn't do anything close to what it says it does, or if it does anything, it's not anywhere close to what they say it actually does for you.
Yeah, I don't know the exact data. The one thing I do know is like it's extremely detrimental for hypertrophy. Like you have to wait at least 4 hours after your session, after your lift, to do it, or else it basically just like it'll counteract what you did in the gym. Not entirely, but it'll have very.
And again, if you feel good doing it, if you feel like it helps you, cool, whatever. And that's kind of where I want to get to on this last one, is that like another thing that I find to be not as effective as people think, and I personally stay away from them as much as possible, is massage. I think that massage is something that's a little bit overrated. I think it's a little bit I don't want to say harmful, but it doesn't do what people think it does.
I'm gonna combat this a little bit when you're done.
Good,
just a little bit.
Massage is essentially a more aggressive version of a massage gun, right? Mm-hmm. And in the short term, it feels great. It relaxes you. People fall asleep, and that's great. If you're going there to relax and feel like find that type of zen to actually start recovering, that's great. But if you're going in there to fix muscle pain, if you're going in there to kind of, basically create any real long-term change to muscle, like you can do that in the weight room, you can do that in training, but massage isn't as effective as people say it is. I agree. I find that anytime I get massage work, or I've gotten massage work in the past, I always feel worse and I always get hurt shortly after.
Yes. So this is where I will say the whole feeling good thing. Some people are like, yeah, they really dig in there. I saw a review once that said, I'm pretty sure massage therapist, whatever his name was, could grind a bowling ball into paste with his bare hands. And that made me laugh. But like, I went to go see that guy just because I was like, okay, like I could use a little bit more work on my back. Like, and I told him, I said, hey, I got some nothing. I'll give you something to grind into paste. No, I went in there and I was like, so I saw the review. It made me laugh. So I assume that like you have a pretty good relationship with your clientele. You probably know what you're doing. I'm not looking for a super crazy, like tough massage. I just want to feel good. I'm on vacation. I just want to feel good. This motherfucker made me feel like I got hit by a truck. The next day I was sore. And I hurt my back the next day. And I was like, that's exactly why I went, was because I knew that I was going to hurt my back if I didn't start changing things. Because long story short, injury when I was younger still kind of comes up now. Exactly? But I will say that...
Let's hear you dig yourself out of this one.
I was going to say, when it's done right by... Because there are people who like call themselves a masseuse. And they just like, I could go and call myself a masseuse and do what these people did. And I've had massage therapists who like went to school for it give me massages, specifically like traps, lats, chest, and arms, where I have felt like $1,000,000 and like something that was a nagging injury just going once a month was like doing that ended up helping a ton. But again, I was doing all the right things in the gym. and out of the gym. But every time I left, after Danielle gave me a massage, dude, felt like $1,000,000. So that's what I'll say is like, if you go to the right person and they just know what they're doing, it can make a difference. But you have to do your own homework too. You
But
can't just get massages.
it's know what you're doing, right? But like to me, there is no like you know, there's, how do I want to word, like, because it can be useful. Like I have been in situations where I've been to like myofascial release type detail or type things where I've had people who were helping me with an injury or something that like was really bad, and I've had myofascial release that, again, massage helps you for a short time, and I'm not saying it doesn't. But the problem is what people do is they use massage to try to get out of pain, and then they fall in love with it, and then they never actually like fix the problem.
Yeah, it's the same thing with
chiropractic. The reality
chiropractic.
is like, if I'm going to get a massage, that's great, whatever, but make sure that, you know, it's for the right reasons. And if it's going to help you relax and actually like really start to recover, that's a great idea. But outside of that, I just don't know that it's really beneficial or something that you can utilize to fully recover in the way that people want to. And
yeah,
I think
it's not like a magic thing that's just gonna fix you. You do have to do your own stuff.
I think my gripe with it, I think my biggest thing with it is not so much like the massage, it's the way that people speak of the massage, right? And it's the same thing with all these other recovery tools. It's like, whatever, I don't really care about them for the most part, but people speak of them like, oh, you need to do this or you're not going to recover. And it's like, no, like you don't at all. Like there's, to me, they're a waste of time. They're a waste of money. And, you know, they're used to make people feel good. That's all. Like people use massage work. You know, I've seen people give massages and they're like this type of deal.
Dude,
and
don't
it's
even
like,
get me started on that.
Well, it's like, well, what are you actually, you know, you're not doing anything. Like you're just literally, like, it just feels good in general if something's like rubbing on your body. You know what I mean? Like it feels good if something's, no, seriously. Like,
no, I know. I was thinking I went to a massage and I was like, yeah, like, she was like, do you want to do legs? And I was like, sure. And she goes, wow, your leg is really tight. And she felt like my IT band. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's kind of supposed to be. It's an IT band. Like, it's not a muscle.
And that's the other thing.
She started, I'm not kidding, fucking punching my leg. And I was like, okay, maybe no leg. Like, I'm okay. I will never go there again, bro. It was when I tell you she was fucking punching my leg with good force, never again. I will never ever go there again.
Yeah, but so I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's the problem with it, and maybe that's my own problem. Maybe I have to think about that and reflect on it. But the way that people speak of these things make me very angry because they don't actually help that much, and it's literally just like the cherry on top. If everything else is going great and your training's going good, you're doing the right movement patterns at the right volume and the right capacity, and you're sleeping well and all of that's going well, and then you do that, that's great. But when you don't sleep, you're training shit, and then you say, I'm going to go get a massage to fix it, or I'm going to go jump in a cryo chamber to fix it. It's like,
I'm going to freeze my nuts off in a cryo chamber so my back feels better. Yeah. I think that's my biggest gripe with it is that
it's like eating soup.
It's the TikTok mentality. Do this one thing to recover better. And it's like, everyone's like, yeah, this was the one thing. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, you have to do a million things to feel good, but the biggest things are like just sleep, eat, and stay hydrated.
Yeah, exactly. So for the next segment, the drill, I think one of the things I want you guys to kind of do after this episode is take more time to really dive into the warm-up. Just like we talked about in the last time we talked about this for athletics, there's a lot to be gained from it. There's a lot of progression to be gained. There's a lot of skill to be gained. And there's a lot of things that will help you actually prepare to move weight better and create more force and really prepare you for the session at whole. And I think the other thing with recovery too is, like I just kind of stated, like if you are looking to use recovery methods, like start with sleep, start with training, like manipulate that stuff first and then start to go into recovery methods on top of that, because otherwise you're just like, you're not going to get the most out of the recovery methods, and then you're not going to really get obviously what you need out of training, because that's really the main culprit of what's going on. And I think you need to be smarter about that. Anything to add to that?
No, that was perfect.
Cool. And then my influence pick, I have a couple. I think another thing to kind of implement into the warm up too that I didn't really talk about today is like crawling patterns or like body weight type like movement capacity type things. My friend Cameron, who owns and created Budokan, he's a great person to kind of check out in regards to like the crawling patterns and especially for martial arts. He has like a movement system he created like specifically for martial arts. So that's definitely something if you're interested in learning more about and implementing into your warm ups or your training, like that's a great place to go check. Then also I brought him up last time too, but Corey Schlesinger, he's a great person for the warm up. I have a lot of good stuff out on warm ups as well. Like if you're ever interested in the stuff that I post, and I think that those types of places where you can look for as well as sprinting. I think a lot of things in sprinting are really transferable in regards to like athletics training, and you can learn a lot from their warm-ups and the way that they get ready to train. I think that's a really important place. So like Just Fly Sports, if you ever look into Charlie Francis, his old stuff, that is really good. So things like that are very important as well to go check out, and you can implement a lot of that stuff into the warm-ups. Anything to add to that?
No, I don't have an influence pick this week.
Well, I just gave you like 5, so go pick one of those.
So there you go.
Do that. And I think that's it. Honestly, I don't know if there's anything else to add to that this week. We dove into a lot. We dove into the recovery methods. We dove into the warm ups. And if there's any specific questions, obviously you guys can always hit us up. I'm always here to help. And end of the year, right? So we'll see next week. We might have to. I'm supposed to be going away for Thanksgiving, so we'll have to figure that out.
On the hell are you going?
Going to Virginia.
Dang.
But I'm leaving on Wednesday in the afternoon, so we're gonna have to figure something out there. But
all right,
we got the end of the year coming up, so please go check out the BGPerform yearly coaching audit. If you haven't checked that out, I think it's really important for coaches and anybody who really wants to just start to improve their life. Going into 2026. I have obviously the coach's version that I made, but I can also hook you up with like a personal version as well if you're interested in that. So just hit me up or click the link below. I still have my free ebook for anybody who's interested for setting goals. It's at www.bgperform.com/goals. And if you want to work with myself or Jerry to improve your training in this year or the next, because January is coming up, so I know a lot of people are going to want to start training. That's www.bgperform.com/training. And I appreciate you guys as always. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.